I'm going to say something controversial as a clinical psychologist. Sometimes therapy alone isn't enough. And before the therapists start clutching their pearls, hear me out. Because therapy can absolutely save lives. In fact, it saves lives every day. But if you've been in therapy for years and still find yourself anxious, disconnected, exhausted, repeating the same relationships, or feeling stuck in survival mode, there may be a reason. Welcome to Therapy Meets Soul, a Live Empowered podcast where we bridge the gap between the clinical and the mind, body, and soul in the most honest way you've ever heard. I'm Dr. Dena, a clinical psychologist and the founder of Live Empowered. And here's why therapy alone sometimes isn't enough. Here's my position. I am not anti-therapy. I'm not anti-medication. I'm not woo-woo spirituality or just think positive culture. I'm science-backed. I am emotionally honest. I'm body aware. I'm spiritually curious, and I am deeply human. I profoundly respect therapy. I've worked with hundreds of clients across several years, and I've seen therapy have such a huge impact on people's lives. I started seeing people become incredibly insightful, but not necessarily healed. They could tell me exactly why they were anxious, why they chose emotionally unavailable partners, why they self-sabotaged, but their nervous systems were still screaming danger. I have examples upon examples of clients that I have worked with that have tried to intellectualize their healing, tried to use just logic to find their way into a healed space. And that's simply where the limitations lie. You cannot cognitive behavioral therapy your way into healing. It just doesn't work that way. The body stores trauma, and insight doesn't equal transformation. Some people try to think their way into healing while their body is still in survival mode, and survival patterns just aren't logical. So coming from just a logical approach or an intellectual approach, again, is where the limitations lie, because that's not going to address the experiences and the traumas and the hurt and the pain that's stored in our body. In my experience, trying to move someone from an intellectual and logical approach into something deeper, just using talk therapy alone, has been incredibly challenging. There are resistances that I meet. The intellectualization causes someone to feel this deep understanding, and that causes confusion as to, well, if I understand, then I get it, and if I get it, then I'm healed. And then still leave wondering why they're easily triggered, why there's tension in their body, why there's anxiety, why there feels like a disconnect. And that's because, again, all the different modalities that I've used in therapy, they're effective and they're impactful and they're profound. Again, don't get me wrong, but they are limiting in that they're not all addressing what is being stored in our body through changes in our behaviors and changes in our habits on a day-to-day basis. Things that holistic healing and holistic wellness can address while complementing the really deep and painful work that one might be doing in therapy. It is with that recipe and that yin and yang, so to speak, where our healing is fully actualized. And when our healing is fully addressed in the mind, body, and the soul, that's when we start to feel like our true and our authentic self. And that's what we all deserve to feel. Let's talk about our nervous system for a little bit. So think of your nervous system as something that has an on and an off switch. The on switch being the sympathetic part of our nervous system, and the off switch being the parasympathetic part of our nervous system. So essentially, the role of our nervous system is to activate when there is a perceived threat. So a bear, or, that's an extreme example, but some sort of threat that causes us to move into a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn state. We all have different responses when our sympathetic nervous system turns on or activates. And sometimes it's not the same response based on the context. So someone is not always freeze necessarily. Someone might be freeze in one instance and then flight in another. Nonetheless, our nervous system kicks in and it turns on to signal to us that there's a threat. And that's all good and well. That's designed to protect us, right? The problem lies in when your nervous system is on all the time or too much, even when there's not a perceived threat. And how does this happen? Well, this happens with chronic and repeated trauma. It could be in childhood or it could be in a singular relationship in which you're feeling that there is a threat all the time. And then our nervous system just stays on. And this causes a lot of dysregulation for us. And what we need to do is to learn how to turn on our parasympathetic, meaning the off switch, to our activation. Because our nervous system might think there's a threat just by seeing somebody, right, that used to be a threat or historically has threatened you, but the situation might not actually be a threat. The nervous system just picks up on these little cues based off of history, when in actuality, that singular instance might not be a threat. So again, activated. And it is our responsibility, again, to recognize when our nervous system is activated through our own unique cues in our body and our minds, and to be able to have a toolbox of skills to deactivate our nervous system. And can you get those skills in therapy? Absolutely. My approach to holistic wellness is not to replace therapy, it's to complement it. And that's exactly why in my practice, I have a clinical practice adjacent to my holistic wellness studio, because they are meant to work together, again, so that you can reach the optimal healing. You can move ever and ever closer to your self-actualization. So, in therapy, some things that myself and other clinicians utilize to teach somebody about the nervous system would be things like psychoeducation, just what I informed you guys about how the nervous system works in simple terms. And you might in therapy even do some deep breathing. You might learn mindfulness skills, box breathing, 4-4-4 breathing, right? All of those are great techniques, and they're going to help you in a pinch, definitely. Because, for example, deep breathing does activate the parasympathetic part of our nervous system, which helps the nervous system to calm, to relax, to understand there's not a threat here. You're taking control of your breathing, right? Because when our nervous system is activated, for a lot of people, our breathing starts to become quicker, right? Or maybe more shallow. And assessing the situation and seeing, okay, there's no threat, but recognizing nonetheless my nervous system is still activated, I need to start intentionally slowing my breathing down. So that's why things like that work, right? And you do learn these things, like I said, in therapy, and you do practice these things in therapy. But again, there are other things that we can do far beyond therapy that will serve more as habits, new behaviors that we're doing on a day-to-day that retrain our nervous system, that we don't need to be activated all day, every day. What are some of those things? Well, some of those things are activities like yoga. Yoga really helps you with the mind-body connection, how to keep your mind focused and present on what's before you, what's in front of you, while moving your body in ways that are going to help release tension that might be stored in the body. Because again, another symptom for a lot of people when our nervous system is activated is tense muscles, tightness in our muscles. You might find your shoulders up to here, right? When our nervous system is activated, and learning to release that tension. And so if you're doing things regularly like yoga, for example, we are taking control of that, and we're telling our nervous system that we are safe. It's okay. Other activities, Tai Chi Qigong, that's another class that I offer here at my wellness studio at Live Empowered, where it is the intentional, slow movements, again, similar to yoga, where we're also focusing deeply on our breath work, and we're moving energy throughout our body in a way that we have control of and that we are being intentional with. Meditation. being able to close your eyes and focus on nothing, or a guided meditation, and to just focus on what you are being guided through rather than what you could have, should have done earlier in the day or what you need to do tomorrow. Again, we're retraining our mind and our body connection as well as our soul. Sound baths, being able to sit there in a relaxed, peaceful position, whatever that may be for you, and listen to the sounds of the bowls that are intentionally done, by the way, at different megahertz to promote healing within our body. Dance therapy, another class that we offer here at Live Empowered, where you are identifying maybe something like grief or fear, and you're pairing it with different movements in your body in order to release, right, and to heal. And those are some of the activities that you can talk about doing in therapy, maybe research, like it might be a homework assignment or things like that. But until you actually go out and you incorporate these types of activities into your day-to-day, into your week-to-week, you're not taking your healing from just a talk space to a new way of living space. And again, that's why therapy and holistic wellness complement each other. Now, I've used the expression self-actualization a couple times already, and I want to explain that a little deeper. Self-actualization is a place that we endeavor to reach where we feel like our most authentic self, where we feel like we're thinking and moving and breathing just in alignment of who we really are, without any regard to people pleasing other people or putting others before us in a way that's harmful for ourselves. The journey towards self-actualization is incredibly painful, difficult, and it's something that we focus on in therapy, right? But it's something that is enhanced, again, with changing our lifestyle and focusing on our mind, body, and soul connection, not just our thoughts. Sometimes people's experience in therapy, and I've heard this from clients that have come to me from other therapists, is that some therapists focus just on symptom reduction. And that's our medical model, at least here in the United States, right? Symptom reduction. And although that is valuable because we do want to reduce and eliminate undesirable symptoms, that's another place where the limitations live. Because our approach to treatment, in my opinion, should not just be symptom reduction. Our approach to treatment should be helping assist someone move closer and closer to self-actualization so that they can feel that they are in full alignment with who they are, who they were meant to be, who they want to be. That goes so far beyond symptom reduction. And that work is done, again, when we bridge the gap between the clinical and the mind, body, and soul. Therapy often helps us survive, but holistic healing helps reconnect us to who we really are. When was the last time you felt truly connected to yourself? Not productive, not functioning, connected. Now I'm going to say something that might be very surprising, or maybe not, but even as a clinical psychologist, I have struggled with this. I was actually explaining to some of the people in my life recently how disconnected I have been feeling from myself. Even with all the know-how and all the experience, even myself, I've been feeling disconnected for some time. And I could tell you exactly why that has happened. And maybe sharing this about myself might be relatable to you. But in the past year and a half or so, I've had a lot of stressors happen, which everyone can relate to that, right? So many stressors that have caused me to feel like I don't have the time to pour into my self-care like I used to. I don't have the time to travel as much as I used to. Things like my career, my work, my obligations as a mother, all of those things have moved their way above taking care of myself, above tapping into my holistic wellness self-care routine that used to keep me feeling so aligned and so grounded. And I know and fully believe that many people can relate to that. And this is why we feel so disconnected from our bodies, why we feel disconnected from our intuition, not feeling true joy, not feeling the bliss of authenticity, or even knowing or remembering what our purpose is. We lose sight of those things with life, right? Life is so unpredictable. Whatever stressors might come our way, we can't anticipate all the time. And it seems to be, in my professional and personal experience, the first things that we take off of our plate are the very things that we need to take care of ourselves and to keep on carrying on in a healthy way. Things like going to the gym, or finding time to make home-cooked meals, or meal prepping, or even taking just 30 seconds to do deep breathing when we're recognizing that our body is dysregulated. And maybe we're not even recognizing that our nervous system is activated or dysregulated because we're so busy going from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, right? And this is why we end up feeling so disconnected, so stressed out, so insightful, right? I know all of these things, but why am I still feeling this way? Why am I so fatigued? Why am I making poor choices? Why am I in these patterns? Why am I on the merry-go-round? And again, it should serve as a reminder that we have to continue prioritizing our wellness, because we're not being the best version of ourselves as a parent, as a worker, as a family member, as a friend, unless we are truly, truly taking care of ourselves. And truly taking care of ourselves means self-assessments, checking in, right? Going to therapy, of course, but therapy for most people is once a week for 50 or 53 minutes, right? What are you doing in the many, many minutes in between therapy sessions, right? This is where it's our responsibility to be able to self-assess, not just with our mind, but what are we feeling in our body, our soul. Self-assess and be able to listen and determine, what do I need? Do I need to lay out the yoga mat right now and do some stretching and some intentional body movements to release stress? Do I need to go outside and put my feet in the grass, or go for a walk and feel the crisp air on my skin or the sun on my skin? Taking those moments, they're not optional, they're necessary. But when our nervous system is dysregulated and we're feeling stressed and overwhelmed because of the long list of things we need to do, or getting dinner on the table, or getting our daughter to basketball practice on time, or whatever it may be, I'm really talking about myself right now. Our nervous system and our mind lies to us and tells us that those things are more important and that we don't need to be taking care of ourselves. Until when? Until we burn out, until it's too late. So this is not just about the idea that therapy and holistic wellness complement each other. It's also about understanding that no matter what you have going on, you are a priority, and it is your responsibility, and your responsibility alone, to take care of yourself. And hopefully some of the things that I've shared with you today, you can see don't take a whole lot of time. You're deserving of 30 seconds. You're deserving of a 20-minute walk. You're deserving of those things. Healing was never meant to happen just in a therapist's office. It happens in safe relationships, in movement, in stillness, in community, in breath, in moments where your body finally realizes, I'm safe now. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who's doing the work but still feels stuck, because healing isn't linear and you definitely don't have to do it alone. Grab your girls, grab your yoga mat, go hit up a yoga class, go do some Tai Chi Qigong in the park. Make sure that you are addressing the fullness of your healing, and do it with some friends. And here's a shameless plug. If you live in the Temecula or nearby areas, here at Live Empowered, we do have a holistic wellness studio where you can experience exactly what I've been talking about in this episode. Tai Chi Qigong, Yoga Nidra to help promote sleep, yoga and sound bath combo, yoga and meditation combo, Reiki, EFT tapping, and dance therapy. So again, if you're in the Temecula area, we'd love to see you here at the Live Empowered Wellness Studio. Catch you in the next episode. Bye!